on Skype. Remember, some of you were here last time.
So can you identify the
Open
faces?
diesel.
I think you look familiar, but I don't remember everyone. I think I remember you. I remember.
The most impressive.
Yes, I remember you. Very handsome.
Thank you.
I'm sure you remember me.
Yes.
Yes.
You were my students before. You and your husband was not my student, but your husband was a good man, a very good person. I visited your house with your husband. Sung Lang, my friend, she did a PhD in Australia, my very good friend. Yeah, really good.
Máy móc hỗ trợ
Chắc là phải một quá. Can I borrow one of your laptop? I just wait.
It's available. It's waiting for you.
right here.
You want? Very good, very good. Right here waiting.
Right here waiting for you.
Yes. Picture Max. Where's my USB? Did you see my USB? sorry.
You need my USB?
Sorry.
Whenever you check it out, I can see it.
This is heavy. USB. Here.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yes, very big.
Is it the right one? The right USB?
I hope so. I pray for it to be the right one. Yeah. Oh, different. Very
You
good.
have one?
Wow. Everyone has everything.
Except
This is
the
Vietnam.
Yeah, everyone.
Except the Bao Dat.
Yes.
Mai chạy xuống bàn cô vì nó có cái mao.
And we use this notebook to mouse.
Bàn quay nó
Very
em bên truyền thông của you có không?
What about it? Yeah.
To enjoy.
Not your fault. My fault. Do you know her?
Mỹ.
She's angry. Say sorry, hurry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because the first time they don't trust me.
Oh, she spoke English.
Yeah, and then she said,
That's the way.
She's a singer. Yes. Very cool singer. Yes.
Cái này liên hệ cái này là phải anh chị có tiếng Việt không biết chứ? Dạ, abstract nha. Dạ, chị có tiếng Việt cho em. Đúng không? Tiếng Việt nào? Input A. Okay.
Point at the screen. Yeah.
And then B, A, and then A, we try A first.
And wait and pray.
And then B, and then
because of your
Thank you very much. Yeah. Maybe no video, so I don't need sound. We make sound.
yeah, so we make sounds. So good afternoon, Dr. Bao Dat,
Yes.
and good afternoon, everybody. So welcome back to Ho Chi Minh City Open University, and Dr. Bao Dat. We are happy to see you again.
Yes.
So may I introduce to you Dr. Bao Dat, a senior lecturer from La Trobe University.
Sorry.
Monash.
Sorry.
Your university.
From Monash University is here to conduct a seminar, the English Reform in Japan lesson for Vietnamese education. So I hope that you're going to have a very happy time with him. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Miss Nga. Thank you for your kind introduction.
And we hope that we're going to have a very happy time.
Yes, I'm trying my best. If you're not happy, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Please blame me.
Oh, please welcome him. Thank you.
it didn't make sound.
Yes, I prepare.
Please wait. Yeah, it's on already.
Yes, finally.
This is the right file?
I think so. It's not from La Trobe, so it's yeah. Okay. Yes.
Sorry.
Can you see? The original is not that blue, but for some reason
Because of
it's
the
the color
projection.
for me here. I go back to that's the title. Now let me
So you can take pictures
yes,
with the title.
yes.
One side.
Maybe in the end. Sorry. Habit.
Oh, yeah.
Habit of celebrity, not just in the end we will take a picture together.
No.
Yes, with the title.
Or with the title. It's okay. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm not that photogenic, but thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. So let me just quickly explain why I chose this topic for you. What's the connection between Japan and Vietnam? Now there are many interesting things. I went to Japan for the first time nearly 20 years ago, and then I kept coming back just out of my own interest. But in the end, I realized that when it comes to English language education, there's so many interesting stories about this country. Now, Japan is famous for being the lowest competent English users in at least in Asia, like rank very low in English. But I think the more I travel around the country and talk to people, trying to understand situation of teaching and learning, I realize that it's not true. Even Japanese people told me only 10% of the population can speak some English. The rest never open their mouth and speak any word of English in their life. First of all, because the economy is not that reliant on English-speaking country. They don't need to do business. They have their own market. They have their own way to do business that is not relying on China or US too much. And in Vietnam or the Philippines or Thailand or Taiwan, if you know English, it's a plus. You can get jobs easier. But not in Japan. In Japan, people with high English proficiency and people who do not speak any word of English get the same salary. There's no need to use English. That's the reason why. But then I thought, okay, so people don't know English, people are not good. But I think that's a myth. I realized that, especially I came back from there. I traveled around Japan for 2 weeks during the last month, and I just came back about less than 3 weeks ago to Vietnam from Japan. Traveling around visiting, so I realized that actually almost everyone knows English. They just don't use it. They just try not to show off. I went to a number of schools, including junior high school, and I gave talk to teachers. There was always a translator next to me translating everything I was saying. And then I realized that sometimes I make a joke. People laugh before the translation came. Every time I make a joke, people laugh first in English. And so I thought, wow, they understand. But why don't they speak? I was just curious. I tried to find out. And then I thought, maybe because in the country, the cultural value of Japan, they cherish modesty. Like people care about action. They don't care about words. They care about being humble, not caring about, you should know about me, my ability. They really don't care. So they don't show off. So I did some tests to see if people really know English. Sometimes I went shopping and I went into very fancy shop. Then I asked, can you speak English? They said no. So I looked around a little bit and I said, oh, I like many things here. If you speak English, I will buy a lot. And I switched to English. Oh, you liar. And then I interview people. I try to find out, why is it they know English? They understand English perfectly. They can even speak. But on the surface, they hide it. And I thought one of the most important things I discovered was that Japan is a culture of perfection. Like they take cars from the US and Germany, they improve it. They take robots from other countries and they improve. So they always try to do the best. They take the best in the world and they make it better. They aim for perfection in everything. They're very slow, they work very hard, but they always improve. So it's a culture of perfection, and that culture does not allow mistakes. When you open your mouth and speak English, sooner or later you will make a few errors, and they don't tolerate that. It's, no, we would rather not speak, not make a mistake. And so for a long time, the country learned English, but never speak English. Very interesting. So that's one special feature I learned about the country. But over the history of me getting to know people there visiting, it's another thing that amazes me about the country is contradiction is country filled with lots and lots of contradiction. You have things happening on the opposite ends of whatever it is. Like we know it's a country who is very conservative, but very creative. Like in the street, you see people wearing suits, both men and women in the street of Tokyo. Everyone wear black suits. There's nothing else. Exactly the same. If you don't recognize different faces, they all look like robots. But actually, if you go to shopping mall and you go to fashion shops, clothes are so interesting, so diverse, so cool, so beautiful, and design is so elegant, and a wide range of things you can choose. And I thought, why they wear the same thing, but they sell different things. So who wear these things? It's just so interesting, very hard to understand. And it's a country of being conformist. You know, people follow one another. Very conforming, but still creative. Very conventional in many ways, but also so diverse in many ways. And I thought I want to know more about how people educate the population. What do people think? How do people learn? How do people develop? And because our area is English education, yours and mine, I want to look into English education to see what's going on. Is it true that people will never need English? So I recently learned, about 2 years ago, people told me that Japan is implementing an English reform starting next year, 2020, with on the event of the Olympic Games in the country. They try to boost up language, and they try to start English very early, like year 3. English is compulsory for everyone, and they invested so much funding, effort, projects in order to improve English. And I want to look at how they do it. Of course, Vietnam, I think, is ahead of Japan in terms of English proficiency. And so I want to see what they plan, because Japan, again, is famous for making things better. So if they want to improve anything, they take the best and make it better. What about English? Do they do the same? So I was looking. I travel around the country. Last month, I went to 8 different cities. And then I went to junior high school, I went to senior high school, I went to university, I went to different companies that run English programs. And I look at how they do things, interview people. And then I learned a few things that we don't know about. One of the things is, I don't know if it's the same in our country, but there is a private sector of education and a public sector of English education. The private sector is so much better. They do a lot of innovation, they have funding, they have self-resource staff, and they have everything. They're very rich. I went into a company that runs English programs. It's called Tokyo Global Network. In a city, in a new city, outside of Tokyo, they built a new city. And I went into the building, and it was just so amazing. Like, they have rooms bigger than this room, and they set up realistic companies, but they're not real company, like airport. So they pretend this is the airport. They have like all the things that you have in the airport. They have restaurant, they have hotel. So another room they set up that looks like a hotel for people to learn from. And then there's almost about everything that we see in real life, like company, offices, school, disco, television station. Like they televise, they broadcast news. There's everything. And students come in there learn. They go to these facilities and they imagine they go into the real world and learn. And I thought, do they do this across the whole nation? Because it costs so much and it takes so much effort to actually even design and construct this model. Yeah. Then after a tour like that, I visited secondary school, junior and senior high school, and I see how people teach and learn English. And the picture is a flip side of what I saw. It was like, teachers are so tired and busy. I thought about teachers here. I think we are really lucky. I assume teachers here go to school only when they need to teach, and then they can go home and rest. Am I right? Teachers there have to be full time. Have to be there from 7:30 to maybe 6:30 all day. They cannot go home, and they teach a lot. We have here English teachers. Yeah, and the English teacher only teach English. Over there, there's no English teacher. Every teacher has to teach English. Yeah, very strange. Every teacher, like you have to teach 12 different subjects, like physics, math, geography, social studies, physical education, and include subjects in languages. And I thought, how can they find time to develop the skills? And on top of that, they have to do administration work. In the school, I went to different places in the school, but there's no administration offices. In our school, I'm sure we have administration office, like financial office,
Student affairs,
foreign affair,
academic
student service,
affairs.
academic affairs. We have administration office, accounting. Over there, nothing. Teachers have to do all of these things. Like every teacher had to take one responsibility, like finance, foreign affairs, internal affair, like hygiene, like they clean the school, like administration.
Oh my God.
No, I won't go there.
And there's no cleaner in the school, in our school.
Really?
Yeah, we have cleaner. Like going up there, I see someone cleaning. In the small school, there's no cleaner. Students clean.
Yeah,
Take turn
that's
cleaning.
true.
Yeah. They say we have to educate our students with high responsibility and to value labor, hard work, and commitment. That's what they said. So teachers have to value. So there's no ranking. In Monash University, there are like admin staff and academic staff. Academic staff get higher salary. They have bigger offices and they have more funding resources to do things, and they are more respected. So hierarchy is like this. In Japan, there's no this. This is God. Yeah. Everyone is teaching and doing the same thing, and they for them, it's personality. You have to really value hard work, commitment, collaboration, and all of the things that train people to be well disciplined. Yeah. So when I look at that situation, I felt like, oh my God, people in Vietnam are so lucky. I must tell them. And then another thing is, before I went, I thought, okay, I'm coming to Japan because they invited me, they pay for my trip, and I'm supposed to talk to teachers. I visited primary school teachers and talked to them about how to teach English. But I dare not do so anymore. I realized I have no right to tell them how to teach English. Look how tired and busy they are. And I talk about training. There's no time for training. You know, outside of the country, we always say, okay, if teachers need to improve proficiency and pedagogy, we need to go to training and more communication. But there's no time. Some lady, after work, they go home and cook for their husband and children. It's still a society where men treat women with a bit less respect than in some other countries. Yeah. So women still have to cook a lot. Yeah. So maybe 10 hours at work, tired, and travel very far. I didn't know that. Here from your home to here, you drive your motorcycle. How long does it take?
15 minutes.
15 minutes.
One
So
hour.
lucky. Over there sometimes 5 hours. Like from home. I didn't know until last time. Because last time they asked me to travel around and they give me train tickets. They give me like a rail pass, meaning with one ticket, one card I can go the whole week, 1 week, and I can go through the whole country very easy. And I realized for the first time that, oh my God, teachers here travel like this. One day I have to take 2 to 4 different train rides, each 1 to 3 hours. The lowest time I spent sitting on the train was 3 hours. Another day, 6 hours sitting on the train, very tired. And I realized, oh my God, teachers here are miserable. And I cannot talk to them about training. I cannot say, if you want to improve English, you need to practice this way, you need to organize training, go to conferences, do research. Cannot. They are too exhausted. They are like this, yeah. So, very interesting. And I think it's a very unfair society. I mean, I've already said good thing about the country, now something bad, yeah. It's very unfair. Like if you work for a government school, you're like this, you're like zombie. Like, yeah. If you work for a private company or private school, you really enjoy. You only teach English, and the company pay for your holiday, and you have training, you have good textbook. If you want to write textbook, just write and will publish, and you have a lot of opportunity to develop. But you are mostly foreigners. So they treat foreigners and local very differently. Now, what I'm trying to introduce you today is effort in reform, but it's not from the private sector, it's not from the public sector, it's from both. It's from someone I know who is school principal of a local school, and he has a lot of innovative ideas. He wants to, because it's very hard to make the reform across the country successful by yourself. He decided to make a reform in his own school. So he was very successful. I went to visit 15 different classes of students from year 3 to year 6. they all speak fluent English. 15 classes, and I tested them. I tried. I speak English to them. They all speak back very fluently. Little Japanese children, much better than our children here. And I thought, wow, what's going on here? I have to learn. So this is my lesson I learned after traveling. Yeah, I will share with you what, and I want you to connect and tell me. But let me introduce the background. So this school is in a province called Mie Prefecture, Nabari City. People in movies who wear black and kill very fast, ninja. This is the origin of ninja. This city, Nabari, is where ninja came from originally, hundreds of years ago. So they told me stories and I was very interested. It was near Osaka. And I learned a little bit about the history of the school. It was established back in the 80s. And there was a teacher, English teacher back there. He struggled to learn English and he was just one of the many teachers. But over the time, he taught himself. He improved and he got promoted eventually to principal. And when he was in power, he generated funding by himself. He employed Japanese and international teachers. And he invented methods. We know that when we go to, say, the overseas, like in Australia, we learn a lot of methods. And we bring back those methods, introduce, adapt, and try to use. But these people I met here, they didn't do that. All the methods they invented locally. They never know what we know, like what are methods that we know. Like communicative approach, yes, academic writing, this Gestopedia, audiolingualism. When I ask them, which method do you use, they can't answer. I say, audiolingualism? No, I don't know what it is. Communicative? What is that? They know nothing about method. But the way they teach is just too good. Very good. Yeah, I will tell you what's exactly happening now. So they invented methods. Because some people went overseas and they don't like it. Methods in America are for talkative people. When the teacher gives a topic, students, yeah, me, I want to talk. But then in Japan, it's not like that. No matter how interesting topic is, you can't expect students to volunteer and speak. So they say communicative approach is a method that reflects society. Like the way we communicate in the classroom must be reflective of how society functions in communication. That's why classroom in America is so successful, because life outside is very dynamic and highly verbal. So classroom is just the same, very natural. But in Vietnam, we are doing the opposite. Maybe in real life it's different. You have to respect elderly, sometimes you talk, sometimes you don't. But in the classroom, we try to be like American. That's why we fail. Yeah? So in Japan, the same. Some people went overseas and look at how Americans train their students. They went back and they say, no, we can't do this. This is just a different model of communication. We cannot pretend we are Westerner. So they say, no, forget it. We invent our own. So the way they invent our own methods is like this. I share with you here. Okay. You know, this is a common thing in Vietnam too, as well as in Asia. We speak too slowly because we don't. Our language is monosyllabic. Like every word is one sound. And so the way we think is very separate. We don't think in chunk. You know, American or English-speaking people, they think in chunk. They think in group of ideas and words. They think like this. So when they speak, words tie together. But Vietnamese speak like this. Every word each word is separate from each other. Like their phrase is very natural. Like first of all, what Vietnamese would say. First of all, I would like to tell you. Instead of first of all, like tell you. Yeah. So when they analyze why we speak differently, they realize that we use too much time to speak. In terms of rhythm, language has rhythm. So you have to do this when you speak, and you will realize how slow we are. Like, first of all, I like to tell you I'm very pleased about you. Yeah. Like just 3. But if Vietnamese speak, yeah, or Japanese, you know, first of all, I would like to tell you that, and we spend too much time speaking just one sentence, yeah. Maybe not that bad, maybe I just exaggerate. But actually, if you record conversation from a Thai person and from a British person, you will realize for 2 beats, the Thai person would do it in 10 beats, too slow. And this teacher realized that. He said, no, we have to speed up. We have to force people to speak more in less time. And so I think you are familiar with Ja Jan. Ja Jan is speaking according to rhythm. He does not know what Ja Jan is. It's a Western invention. So I asked him, oh, this looks like Ja Jan. He said, what is that? I have no idea. But the method he invented is like, okay, this is a list of sentences, and I will give you 2 beats only. Up to you. You have to finish reading them. Each of them within 2 beats. Yeah. So students are being given pressure, but he did it by scaffolding, and he doesn't know what scaffolding means. You and I know. Because he did it step by step. Like at first, read a word, and still, even a word you must have a beat, like cat, dog, camel, elephant. At first, yeah. So people used to the fact that language must have rhythm. They must feel the rhythm of the language. Second, it will enhance every word into a phrase, like my new cat, my little dog, an old elephant. You add 1 beat, but you maybe add 2 words, yeah, but still not much time spent. And then he keep expanding, and students have to repeat until the sentence over the time develops very long to a extended length, and still very few beats. So he keep doing that, and then students learn to memorize very slow, yeah. Long procedure. In the end, you have to put everything away and speak like that. So students speak with rhythm. Yeah, speak with rhythm. If you don't believe me, maybe you tape someone speaking in Vietnam, maybe your student, and then you tape a native, okay? And then you can compare the time. Very different. So he put that in a book, the whole thing about trying to improve rate. He put in a book which he called Metro Learning. This is his own word. Metro is about using a device for learning music, metronome, yeah. Learning according to the metronome. So when you speak, you turn on the metronome. And of course the metronome has speed. You can increase speed and speak really fast. So that's one thing he does. And the book does that only. And then he put it in practice. Now, once he observed and invented a method, and he will implement the method. So the way he does it is he give it to teacher. He give the book. The book is published by the school. He give the book to teachers, and he say go and teach and make a report. And then the next thing is after giving them time and space for practice, he would come in every class and sit down and observe to see what may go wrong, and then he take notes, and he go patiently every day from class to class and back in his office. He sit down and improve the book, and then make the book better and print again and give again to teacher, and teacher go to class and teach, and he continue observe, and sometimes he organize team to observe and share. And students speak English very fast now. He did it many years ago. I think if we do the same, maybe similar result will happen. I don't know, but I thought it's just something that the West have not done. I think I've seen books that use rhythm to teach, but in the West, most books like this use rhythm to control stress and intonation. Stress. Like I've never been to this city, so you stress on that and you stress on this. I've never been to this city, but they don't use beat to improve the rate. I haven't seen this happen anywhere in a Western country, but it happens here. Yeah. So I really admire the way they do it. And it's not just this teacher. I noticed that many teachers in this school do the same thing. So each teacher, if they like, they can be given funding to write a book based on innovation. So they will do this. And I saw many books by teachers. There's another one. It's by an Australian teacher. His name is Moon. His family name happened to be Moon, so he used his image. This is what he looks like. Yeah. He has a bit of a goatee, and his name is Moon, so he wrote Over the Moon, English grammar. I asked, why don't you use grammar book published in England or Australia or anywhere else? There's so many. Why do you have to write your own textbook? He said, I use them, but they are not suitable for these students. So I have to, because Japanese have problem with certain structure, a problem with certain pronunciation, a problem with certain words and sound. So you have to write books for them that look at their problem. Yeah, books in England just teach the same thing to everyone, and they say in education, if you treat everyone the same way, that's not good education. That means you favor some students and you penalize some others using the same book. In England, companies produce what they call global textbook, meaning textbook that work for everyone. But there's no such book. Research scholars have discovered that if you claim a book to be universal, that book is not a good book. A good book must serve a certain group only. Yeah, like some books serve Eastern Europe, some book help Western market, Western European market, some book is good for Korean market, and so on. Because it has very much to do with business, yeah, marketing strategies. They did research, market research, and they realized that, like German, as an example, German learners of language don't like many pictures, don't like many colors. If they have a textbook with a lot more words than picture and less colors, they will feel they want to study. They will feel this is serious book. But if it's too childish, they don't like it. Read market research in Korea say the opposite. If Korean students don't have a book with tiny, cute, little, fun, colorful pictures, they don't study. So every book reflects the way, the culture, peculiar way of learning in their culture. Yeah. And so if you write a textbook, maybe consider these things. And this is another thing that Mr. Moon does. I didn't have a chance to look into the whole book, but I think some of the exercise that he created is related to difficulty in learning among Japanese children, and he used them just to teach them, those children. Yeah. Okay, this is example of students' works. Another important thing I find out apart from self-driven materials and innovation and collaboration, those three, is they have template for a lot of things. They have template. Like students are asked to write a story, they have the structure for a story. I think Japanese are very structural thinker. When they think, when they work, they must have a good plan. The good plan must have a structure with a logical flow that they can understand and agree and get committed to, otherwise they can't start. And so they put that spirit in teaching and learning. When they ask them to invent a story, the story is not spontaneous. Now this is a striking difference between Western mind and the Japanese mind. Western mind is very improvisational. People spur of the moment, they say spur of the moment. Don't fact, yeah. Spur of the moment reaction, that's Western way of learning. Like you ask something, they answer. Someone says something and you listen and how you feel, you will respond. It's very responsive, spontaneous, improvisational. Let me give an example of how a classroom in Australia learned to make a story. Yeah? And I use this method to make a story. I will start the introduction and I will throw the ball at you and you will continue the story and you will pass the ball around. Whoever gets the ball will continue the story until the story finishes. That's how people write a story. Very spontaneous. Developed from inspiration and imagination. Let me give you an example of a story which I like, just for fun. That day we were talking about a story. I started off by saying, this man goes to work every day, and after work he plays golf with his friend or sometimes drink. And he doesn't care about his wife. His wife stays home, she cooks so hard. And on the way from the golf course home, he thought, oh, home is so boring. The same thing, the same wife, the same atmosphere, the same routine. We ask the same questions. On the table, she served the same food. He said, I don't want to go home. So boring. And then that day, something different happened. The moment he went home, the house was so quiet and dark, and he heard no sound. So he came in, and he looked at the dinner table. It was cold and empty, no food. And he looked around. So I started with that, and I said, okay, you continue the story. Very interesting, yeah? I stimulate imagination, so the next student, I look around, and I didn't see my wife. I went into other bedrooms and toilet and everything, garden, backyard, nothing. Where's my wife? Pass it to the next person. Yeah. Next person. There's no wife, of course, the house completely empty. And I sat there and I thought, who took my wife? Suddenly I missed my wife. I was so sad. I really want the same thing again. Yeah. The ball to the next person. And then suddenly I saw on the table, there's a letter. Where did she go? Did she leave me for another guy? So I came and picked up the letter and read it. Next person. The letter said, we have your wife. Please pay $200,000 by 4 o'clock tomorrow at the station. Drop off. Or your wife will never return. Very sad, very sad. Now he really loves his wife. Yeah. Said, oh my God, I'm losing my wife. And he thought about it. He doesn't know he doesn't have the money. He has to go borrow and stuff. So he thought, and then the ball went to someone else. Person said. He sat for a long time, and finally he decided to write a reply letter, and then pass on to the next person. The next person, my God, it's so difficult. How would you reply? You know. But the reply letter said, "Dear sir, I don't know who you are, but actually I'm tired of my wife. You can actually have her." And the ball went to the next person. The story gets very tense and difficult. The next person said, so he sent off the letter. The next day, another letter came on the table, and he went home and saw the letter. Next person, pick it up and read. The letter said, actually, you really must give us the money. If not, this time, your wife will return. Finally, the wife returned, and he didn't have to pay. And the wife angry, why did you write such a letter? Why did you kill me? No, I know them. I know that trick. They walk in, I love you and I want you back. And I don't want to lose our money. It's a perfect solution, don't you think? And she agreed. That's the end of the story. Yeah. So story making in the West, very, very specific. In Asia, I don't think we can do this. Sometimes we can, but I think very difficult because we are not trained to speak fast and to respond fast. We are trained to listen to information or knowledge, to obey. Yeah, the way we think is not the same. So in Japan, they notice this, so they don't do that. I know it's interesting. But what they do is they give a structure with templates and frames. So the first frame has like name of the student, title of the story, and then there's a picture denoting the theme, number of character, the plot, what happened, and then the review, meaning what the story tells us about and what we learned from the story. So all the students do this, either in individual or groups. This is a great way to support, but this is not the only way to support people in writing stories. After students write story, the teacher will use the story to teach. Yeah. So one thing teachers do is, in the classroom, the walls always filled with students' work. If students' work is good, the teacher will frame it and put it on the wall for other students to look at and future students to come look at. And when the wall is filled with good works, there's no more space, the teacher will choose the best piece of work, very, very good, and put in the corridor. So the corridor of the school is filled with excellent work. And then over the years, the wall is filled with too many pieces of excellent works. They set up a museum in the school, like a room like this, but they divide into pots, into like small corner, like called pots, and each pot is a theme. So students' work very, very, very excellent. Go to the museum. Yeah. And so when you as a visitor come to the school and want to know about what's going on, you can see students' work. So I'm going to show you some of those pieces of work. Yeah. So I took pictures of things displayed from the classroom to corridor and that museum. I will show you the museum, but these stories are very well organized, interesting. Of course, teacher will help them edit or revise or make comment, and they do it again. Now this is a grammar lesson. How do we teach grammar here? We show the rule, we give examples, students make sentences, read, and we correct their mistakes. Anyone teach differently? More or less, yeah. I know some of you very, very different, but basically that's how we Vietnamese teachers. Over there, you have to talk real life. The sentence that you make cannot be from book. You don't do textbook exercise anymore. You don't repeat teacher sentences. You listen a little, but then eventually the sentences that you make has to be from people. Like you look at, for example, your friend here, and then you write a sentence about your friend, like, he's taller than me. So you have to write like that. Sorry, your name is Mr. Hung. Dr. Hung is taller than Dr. Xuân Lan, for example. Sorry, I know Xuân Lan is taller, but to save face for advance. So sorry. So the good thing, there's so many benefits of doing this, yeah. Number one, easy to make sentences. Second, connect book learning with real life situation. Number three, it's fun, like when you use people in the class. And sometimes teacher asks you to use phone to take picture of their classmate. Like, I want to talk about you, I will take your picture and I will write about you. And you don't know what I write until I show it. And you're like, oh my God, is that about me? So people laugh and enjoy, and you have the right to do that because the teacher encourages you and no one is shy. So these are real people in the class. Like Ricky is the tallest in this class. Hinata is fastest. You can observe, yeah. Most talkative, oldest, noisier. So superlative and comparative I use in a very authentic sense, and they write it down, and teacher keep using it. There are things you can recycle, like put it on the board, then can take it off. If it's not too excellent, or it doesn't have to be there forever, they will leave it off. Sometimes people are shy. Like if I ask you a question, you are shy, you don't answer. But if I ask you to write, like on a piece of paper, and then put it on the wall, you use glue or blue tack, yeah, to paste what you write on the wall, and everyone gets up and look at all the writing, and you pick the one you like the best. Yeah, like talk about your favorite place. So everyone write, put it on the wall. They go and look, and you cannot take back your own. You have to take someone else and bring back to your seat and study, and then speak it. Yeah, use it to contribute. And they're not shy anymore because that's not their idea. They're not ashamed of being wrong, yeah. So they contribute. That way it's safe face. So there's a sense of sharing, there's authenticity, There is the element of fun, very realistic language practice. I will show you a few more examples, this time with pictures. Question factory, so you interview people and you take their picture and then you write sentences. Now that day, again, is another grammar lesson, and the point is adjective clause. Like, I know someone who, maybe you can do the same with your students. Like, I know someone who always spit chewing gum on the floor, for example. You can criticize them or you can praise them. I know someone who is always on time and never late. Yeah. So you talk, it's educational. Yeah. So I know a female who is good at playing piano. I know a girl who's wearing baby sheep. I don't know what baby sheep means. Clothes look like baby sheep, yeah. And so these sentences actually very fun, because when you talk about individual, you try to bring out something that person does that other people just don't, and it becomes interesting. Yeah. It becomes interesting. And sometimes it becomes a joke. Sometimes I practice this with my students. Sometimes we make sentences that may be true or false about us. Each of us make one sentence about ourselves, and we read it out, and people will say true, false. Very interesting. Like someone will say, I have, the person very young, she said, I have 3 children. Oh, I have 2 children. Yeah. And everyone false. And she said, actually true. Yeah. It's like that, very fun. So one time I played with my students. I said, I speak 3 languages. Everyone said, false. You speak 4. I said, really? They try to praise me. Yeah. So it can be a joke when we use that kind of language.
I have 4 wives.
Yes, I have 4 wives. Yes. Or I am head of department, but you look very humble. But actually you are. Yeah. And sometimes the joke is very interesting. For example, one time I played this, and someone talk about themselves, and they say, I am never angry with anyone. True or false?
False.
Yes, most people angry. And that is why. She said, nobody saw me angry. Really? Why? She said, because those who did never lived. Oh, like this. Yeah. Very tough, very tough. Okay, this is another good one, and it should happen at the beginning of your class. Like the teacher will come in and say, we don't have to follow the rule of the school. We can make our own rule here to use in the classroom. What do you want to do? And what do you want us to not do? Yeah, like sleep in the class, eat in class. Yeah, some people say you can. So each student make one rule for the class to follow, and the teacher will collect them together and put up as a set of regulations. And when you read, it's really fun and creative, like be a funny class. Yeah. That's what children like. Sometimes this is a good way for children to educate teachers, because all the things that children want and teachers do, children will love you, and they will train you to be good teacher. You don't need to learn by yourself. Yeah? So be a funny class. Don't be lazy and sleep in the classroom. To be honest is very important. Be organized. Some teachers in our country not too organized, so be organized. Always be smiling to everyone. Some teachers don't want to smile because they have to exercise their lips. Yeah? It's painful. Yeah? Greet the teacher and friend. Try to speak in English. So they say it. They have to do it. The teacher doesn't have to force them. Yeah? Or the good thing they say. Now, when you ask students to write something good for the class, they will try their best. They don't think about the consequence. They don't, oh, I write, I have to do it. Oh, no. They don't think. They just do their best to write the best, and you treat them. Finally, you put up and say, okay, that's your role. I didn't tell you. Yeah, you have to do this, and I will do it with you. Yeah, very smart. And students agree. And they look at that, and every time people violate the rule, the teacher will say, see, who wrote this? Yeah. Very interesting. This is another grammar lesson. the same, similar. Yeah. But sometimes they talk about hobbies, sometimes they talk about appearance, sometimes they talk about habits. But all of these topics can be very fun, especially habit is the most fun, and then hobby, and then appearance. Yeah. Now this is something again very different from Western education. In Western education, you are not allowed to talk about other people's appearance. It's a big mistake if you comment on, oh, she's fat, or he's thin, he's too tall, her hair is beautiful. It's not like that. It's completely wrong in Western society. But in Japanese society, yeah, you can do it. If you have a reason, they will accept it. So this is a very peculiar culturally specific way of learning the language. And if these people go to the West and try to learn, Western teacher will say, no, don't do this. But it's good for people there, yeah. It helps them learn. This is another, and I just can't help looking at those on the wall because they're so nice and they're so real. Yeah. And I can recognize them. They say, there's a boy who can play the guitar very well and won a prize. And I said, wow, which boy? After I look at the picture, I look for that boy and I met him. Yeah, like that. It's so interesting, make you curious. This is the museum. Does it look like a museum to you? And they change the theme, like every 6 months, the theme change. So they can put away things in storeroom and they display. This is like Greek culture, like mythology, social practice, nature, yeah. Greek. I will show you one exhibit, which is information about ancient history, yeah. It got Japanese translation too, in case parents want to come and see, outsiders want to come and visit. And they make it so neat, but again, this is students' work in Greek. Teachers read for them and revise, and there are international teachers helping them. And they are working together to build, to make the exhibit presentable. Yeah. So when I went through the